The Pandavas spent 13 years in exile, 12 years in the forest, and 1 year in disguise. But the year in disguise is the part nobody talks about, and it is genuinely one of the wildest, most entertaining, and most tense sequences in the entire Mahabharata. Because 5 of the most famous warriors in history had to hide in plain sight for a full year, and if they were recognized even once, they would have to start the entire 13-year exile over again. The rules were brutal. During the 13th year, the Pandavas had to live incognito. They could not be recognized by anyone. If Duryodhan's spies found them, the entire exile reset. 13 more years. So where did the 5 most famous princes in the world hide? In the court of King Virata, a minor king with a small kingdom, hiding in the last place anyone would look. Each Pandava adopted a disguise and a cover identity. Yudhishthira, the king, became Kanka, a Brahmin who served as King Virata's companion and dice-playing partner. The irony is devastating. The man who lost everything in a dice game spent his year in hiding, playing dice with a king. He was apparently very good at it. Some stories say he won consistently but carefully, never enough to draw attention. Bhima, the largest and strongest man alive, the warrior whose appetite was legendary, became Ballava, a cook. He worked in the royal kitchen. The man who could kill elephants with his bare hands spent a year making food. This is already hilarious, but it gets better. When a wrestler named Jumuta came to Virata's court and challenged anyone to fight him, Bhima could not resist. He entered the wrestling ring as the cook Ballava and absolutely demolished the professional wrestler. People were confused. Why was the cook so unbelievably strong? Bhima had to pretend it was a lucky break. Arjuna's disguise was the most dramatic and the most studied. He became Brihanala, a eunuch who taught music and dance to Princess Uttara. The greatest warrior alive, the man who had received weapons from Shiva himself, spent a year teaching a teenage girl how to dance. This disguise came from a curse Arjuna had received from the Apsara Urvashi. She had desired him. He refused her advances because he considered her a mother figure, and she cursed him to become a eunuch. Krishna later modified the curse so it would last only 1 year, and Arjuna chose to use it during the incognito period. So a curse that was meant to humiliate him became the perfect cover. Nakula became Granthika, the horse keeper. The man who was an expert in horse lore and equestrian warfare took care of King Virata's stables. He was suspiciously good at his job. Horses that had been unmanageable suddenly became docile. The royal stables had never been in better condition. Nobody connected the dots. Sahadeva became Tantipala, the cow herder. Like Nakula with horses, Sahadeva had divine knowledge of cattle. The cows in Virata's kingdom had never been healthier or produced more milk. Again, nobody questioned why the new cow herder was performing miracles. Draupadi had the most dangerous disguise. She became Sairandri, a maidservant to Queen Sudeshna. A queen pretending to be a maid. The most beautiful woman in the world, whose face had launched the deadliest war in mythology, was now styling hair and mixing perfumes. And immediately, there was trouble. Kichaka, the queen's brother and the military commander, saw Draupadi and became obsessed with her. He harassed her relentlessly. He propositioned her in public. He assaulted her in the court. Sound familiar? This was the dice game all over again. A powerful man abusing a woman while the people around her did nothing. But this time, Draupadi went to Bhima, and Bhima, still pretending to be a cook, lured Kichaka to a meeting at night, disguised as Draupadi. When Kichaka arrived expecting a woman, he found Bhima. Bhima beat Kichaka to death so thoroughly that his body was an unrecognizable mass of flesh with no bones left intact. He literally pounded every bone in Kichaka's body to powder. The entire kingdom was shocked. Who killed the great Kichaka? Nobody suspected the cook. The year reached its climax when the Kauravas attacked Virata's kingdom. They had heard rumors that Kichaka's killer might be Bhima, which would mean the Pandavas were there. It was the last day of the 13th year. Virata's army was away on another front. The kingdom was defenseless. Prince Uttara, a teenager with no combat experience, was the only royal available to fight. He was terrified, and his dance teacher, the eunuch Brihanala, volunteered to be his charioteer. On the battlefield, when Uttara saw the Kaurava army and tried to run, Arjuna dropped the disguise. He climbed down from the chariot, walked to a tree where he had hidden his weapons a year earlier, unwrapped his legendary bow Gandiva, and single-handedly routed the entire Kaurava army. One man against an army. And the year of hiding was over. The Pandavas revealed themselves. The incognito year is the Mahabharata at its most human and most entertaining. Gods and warriors pretending to be cooks and eunuchs and horsekeepers. The greatest queen alive scrubbing floors. The greatest archer teaching dance steps. It proves that the Mahabharata is not just an epic of war and philosophy. It is a story about survival, adaptability, and the humbling truth that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is swallow your pride and survive. Subscribe for more stories that prove the Mahabharata is the most entertaining narrative ever written.